A couple of months ago, before we lifted the Bronco Raptor, I wanted to test the fitment on the 38x1550s and the 20x12 with -44 offset wheels. We had this set up on the Rubicon 392 before we got the 6x135 wheels for the Bronco Raptor. So to test that out, I had to get some custom wheel adapters that would allow us to put 5x5 wheels off the Jeep Wrangler onto a 6x135 bolt pattern. Since then, we ended up getting a whole new setup. We got new wheels for the Bronco Raptor, we got new tires for the Jeep, and we put the 38s on the Bronco Raptor. But now that we have an even bigger tire, the 40x1550 on the Rubicon 392, I want to test these out on the Bronco Raptor, especially now that we have the RPG 2.25-inch lift. So today we're going to be putting these custom wheel adapters back on, and we're going to be putting the Rubicon 392 on jack stands to see how these 40s clear on the Bronco Raptor. Now, of course, I wish there was an adapter where I could just throw these 38s back onto the Rubicon 392, but I haven't found a 6x135 down to 5x5 adapter. So for now, I don't even have a set of stocks. We're just gonna have to throw this up on jack stands. But I also wanted to show you exactly what the Bronco Raptor looks like right now. Of course, the 38x1550s look awesome. It's a really good fitment on this Bronco. And I honestly don't know if the 40s are gonna clear. We've done a little bit of clearancing on that front bumper. See how that end cap sticks out a little bit further than it should. I've cut that down a ton just to clear the 38s. And we still rub a little bit on the fender well liner at full turn. But with these wheel adapters, it's basically a 2-inch spacer aside from just being an adapter. So it is going to push them out considerably further. Last time we did it with the 38s, it looked crazy. It was almost too wide. So first things first, we got to jack this thing up and get it on jack stands on all 4 corners. Well, now that we've got all of those off, the next step is just going to be taking the wheels and tires off of the Bronco and installing the adapter so we can go ahead and throw these massive 40s on. It's so crazy every time I take these tires off and stuff. You can't tell how big they are on the vehicle, but you take them off and they seem massive. It's so funny. Now for these 2-piece adapters, to be able to install them and to be able to have enough room for your lugs to come all the way through without having to trim them is we're going to use these slide-on 1/2-inch spacers. Put them on just like that. Then we can take these apart. Then we can slide these right on. Then I like to use these thin-walled lug nuts. They've got like the little backing right there where these are not necessarily hub-centric since they're going to be spaced off with that spacer behind it. This kind of makes it lug-centric, so it's just using everything I can to try to make sure these don't move. Then after you've done that, you'll reattach this. Then once we've got all these torqued down to spec, all we need to do is throw our 40 on and we should be good. Well, we have officially got the passenger side on, and let me tell you, it is making a big difference. You can see just how wide it is with all those spacers on there. It's basically 2.5 inches worth of space, so it's cutting the tire tread right in half. About half of it's exposed, whereas on this one, we've only got 1/4 of the tread exposed, so it makes a pretty big difference there. But here is a side-by-side comparison of that 40 versus the 38. Pretty apparent difference. Definitely a pretty noticeable difference. Let's knock out the other sides, then we can drop down the road, see what the clearance is like, and test it out with some articulation. Well, now we've got it all wrapped up with the 40s on, and I know you guys are excited to see what it looks like. But before I show you the full reveal, I've got to introduce you to today's video sponsor, Anman. Now, Anman makes some awesome products, but today we're going to be testing out and installing their 10-inch slim subwoofer with a built-in amplifier. Now, unlike other subwoofers, this install is supposed to be quick and easy, and today we're going to find out just how easy and how big of a difference it can make. We've got some wiring here to run all of our wires. We've got our remote for the lights because it does have a built-in LED that can go with the music. We've also got a bass knob right here that allows us to adjust the bass by about 12 decibels. We've got the actual subwoofer and amplifier right here. Now you can see just by me holding it how light and how thin it is. It feels like a pretty heavy-duty construction. See, we've got all of our different controls back here and all of our different inputs, as well as a built-in fuse. As you guys know, my lifted Camaro is definitely unique, but the sound system was more than lacking. So last night, I ended up hooking up the Anman subwoofer, and let me tell you guys, I have been more than impressed. So it's got this little remote here where you can change all kinds of different features. You can change the color, you can change the mode, you can change how long it's going to do it, and you can change how it's going to react to the sound, because this will go off the beat from the music. Now this has a cast aluminum enclosure and a 3.5-inch ultra slim profile. Now I'm actually going to tuck this away somewhere else, but I wanted to leave it out that way I could show you guys. All your different controls back here on the back side if you need to adjust anything, but I'm just using the bass knob for now. The plug and play install was absolutely seamless, and I really like that it has the integrated fuse protection. Now this system isn't designed to blow your windows out, but I can tell you that it complements the factory style sound system perfectly. You could not ask for a better sound in this small of a package, and for the price, I just don't think you can beat it. So a huge thank you to Anman for sending this out and sponsoring today's video, and if you want to get one for yourself, check them out down in the link in the description below. Well, now it is all buttoned up, and as you can see, the 40s have made an absolutely massive difference. I really did not think that it would make too much of a difference, but I remember throwing them on the 392 for the first time, and man, do 40s really light up whatever car you throw them on. Now, last time we used these wheel adapters with the 38s, it just looked bad. I guess where the 38s are a little bit shorter, it just looked way too wide. But to be fair, I really don't hate the look or the stance of this with the 40 by 1550s. Well, I've driven it around for 40 miles or so, and it actually does not feel bad at all. But I do have to make a confession though, whenever I put these wheels and tires on the Jeep Wrangler for the first time, I put them on, didn't balance them, and they felt great. It felt really good. So I never even looked into getting them balanced. I figured after they wore a little bit, maybe I would get them balanced. But I throw them on this, and you can definitely feel that they are unbalanced. I guess with the solid axle, it really just hides a lot of that. But whenever you put it on this independent front suspension, you can certainly feel it. Now, aside from that, in terms of gearing, performance, power, all that stuff, it all still feels relatively similar to the 38 1550s. I'm not noticing a massive difference. The tread compound on this tire versus the Mickey Thompson Baja Boss MTs is a little bit softer. The Yokohama Geolandar XMTs are just a really smooth tire. Even though they look crazy aggressive, they ride really good on the road. So that's one thing that really impressed me, and you can feel that difference in it right now. In terms of clearance, I haven't ran into any major issues with normal driving, but in parking lots, whenever you're trying to turn tight, you can definitely get into the fender well. So just trying to make tight maneuvers, we definitely don't have enough clearance without doing a little bit of trimming. It seems like maybe if we just trim the inner fender well liner, we would be good to go. So all in all, for normal driving, pretty impressive. And really and truly, the Bronco Raptor handles these 40 by 1550s on the 20 by 12s really good. It doesn't feel any worse than it did on the 38s, which is kind of surprising. But now that we know the clearance is going to be perfectly fine for just driving around on the street, let's go ahead and take it back home and see what kind of clearance we have whenever we put it into some articulation. So here's one little flex test just to see what it looks like. And in all honesty, I know that looks like a lot of travel, but it's not flexed that hard right now. Plenty of room to flex harder, which is kind of crazy. So let's get this thing repositioned and see if we can flex it out. Well, we were able to get the front very close to being tucked. You can see it's still got just a little bit of space in there. And the rear we actually do have tucked. So with this tire size, this would technically be the max amount of travel, which is still pretty good. You can see this other side over here is pretty tucked. Yeah, you can't even get your finger in there. That is down on it. Now, like I said previously, I really don't hate the fitment of these 40x1550s, even with all those spacers and adapters on there. I think it looks pretty cool, and especially from the front. You see the track of this thing coming down the road, and the only thought that you can think of is just to get out of the way. Now I've got it repositioned again, and I just don't have enough of a bank here to flex out the front end of the suspension, but for the rear, it works. So I just flipped it around here to see the other side. We've got it tucked all the way into that tire, as you can see right there. That's as tight as it could possibly get for the rear. So if we were gonna run 40s, there's a couple options. Either we can run a bigger RPG lift, or we could just rip those silly fender flares right off. And I think the second option would be the best. Now, the amount of travel that these things have is kind of crazy for a stock-ish vehicle. I mean, this is only 2.5 inches or 2.25 inches taller than what it was from the factory, but it is a 3-inch taller tire. So the amount of travel you have with this tire is about the same as what we would have had stock on the 37s. But you guys will have to let me know what you think. I'm really digging the look of this Bronco Raptor on 40x1550s. Right there, so go next to the trailer.
Okay. What you did.
Oh, brother.
And watch this.
What?
You did.
Think it's okay?
Yeah.
Think we should just leave it?
No.
Well, you know, on these, it's pretty easy to fix it.
Yeah.
You want me to show you how easy?
Sure.
You ready? Well, does that look better?
Yeah.
Now, as you just saw, we will run into some clearance issues, especially in the rear, and we're gonna run into some clearance issues in the front. You can see I have the steering wheel turned ever so slightly, but it's definitely gonna rub at full articulation with this. So I think part of it is due to the tire being pushed out so far, but even aside from that, we're gonna run into stuff anyway. So we'll probably have to figure out a solution to get rid of these fenders, do a fender delete. Gonna inevitably have to get rid of this bumper and get a stubby bumper. Doesn't seem like there's much of a way around that. And then for the rear, just deleting this fender will save us a lot. So What I'll try to find is like a 3-inch fender. It'd be perfect if it was about that big of a fender that came all the way back. That is what we need to find, and that would look absolutely perfect with 40s, especially whenever they get sucked in just a little bit more from not having the wheel spacer and adapter on there. But I think this is a good proof of concept to at least know we can drive on the road and we can figure out all the pieces we need to cut to make it work. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see next. But until then, Godspeed.